Darius Cole sat at the cold metal table, counting the seconds on the wall clock the way he counted everything now. Visits were the only moments that still felt like oxygen. Maya was never late, not once in 2 years. But today, the chair across from him stayed empty long enough for doubt to settle in his chest. When the door finally opened, she stepped inside with a stiffness that didn't belong to her. Her hands were buried in the sleeves of her jacket, knuckles pale, eyes refusing the path to his. She walked like someone being pushed from behind, not someone arriving on her own terms. "Maya?" Darius leaned forward, trying to catch her gaze. "You okay?" She nodded too fast, then shook her head as if correcting herself. "I'm fine. I'm just tired." "Tired?" He studied her face. "You look like you're freezing." "I said I'm fine," she whispered, pulling her sleeves tighter around her fingers. The guard by the door shifted, bored, barely noticing them. Usually that gave Darius comfort, privacy in a place that never offered any. Today it felt like a barrier. Maya finally looked up. Her eyes were swollen in a way that didn't come from lack of sleep. Something had drained her. Something had taken the shine she always carried in with her. "You didn't answer my calls this week," Darius said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I kept thinking something happened." Her throat bobbed. "I've been busy." "Busy enough to miss every call?" He tried to smile. "You never miss calls." She pressed her palms flat on the table. "I'm trying, Darius. I'm really trying." He reached across, but she pulled her hands back before he could touch her. "What's going on?" he asked. "Nothing." "Maya, I said nothing." Her voice cracked at the end of the word. Silence folded itself around them, thick enough to choke on. People around them murmured, laughed, argued, but every sound felt far away. Maya looked like she wanted to run. Every blink looked like it hurt. Darius swallowed hard. "Did I do something?" "No," she wiped under one eye. "You didn't." "Then what's wrong?" She blinked at the table instead of him. "I just can't stay long today." "But you just got here." "I know. You always give me the full hour." "Not today." She stood up suddenly, scraping the chair backward. The noise cut through the room. A few heads turned. Darius felt his chest tighten, as if the air itself hardened. "Maya, wait," he said, rising halfway. She stepped back. "Please don't make this harder." "Harder than what?" She looked at the guard, avoiding the question entirely. "I have to go." "Maya, look at me." She hesitated. For one fragile second, her eyes met his. He saw fear, guilt, and something else. Something that felt like the shadow of a goodbye she wasn't saying out loud. "I'll call you," she whispered. The guard motioned her toward the exit. She turned, walked away without another glance, and the door closed behind her with a finality that made Darius's stomach twist. He sat back down slowly, hands trembling, heart beating out of rhythm. Nothing about her felt right. Nothing about her leaving felt normal. Something had shifted, and whatever it was had already begun to eat at the edges of his world. He stared at the door she disappeared through, feeling the first fracture open inside him. But what exactly was Maya hiding? And who else inside this prison already knew the truth? The moment Darius stepped back into his unit, the noise hit him. Laughter, metal clanking, cards smacking tables. But none of it reached him the way it usually did. His mind replayed Maya's trembling hands, her broken voice, the way she looked past him as if she owed someone else her eyes. He lay on his bunk that night, staring at the ceiling, counting the slow rhythm of the pipes overhead. Sleep didn't come. The questions did. By morning, the whispers had already begun. 2 inmates talked by the phones, lowering their voices just enough to sound guilty. Another pair snickered near the showers. The energy felt off, stretched thin, as if everyone knew something he didn't. Reese Malcolm, loudmouth, troublemaker, and chronic gossip, dropped onto the bench beside him during chow. "You look like hell, Cole." Darius ignored him, pushing rice around his tray. Reese nudged him. "Heard someone's girl was in here yesterday. Real shaken up. Real nervous." Darius's jaw tightened. "Mind your business." "Oh, I am," Reese grinned. "But the block? They don't mind at all, especially since the guard she was seen with ain't exactly subtle." Darius froze. "What guard?" Reese leaned in, enjoying the moment too much. "Rowan. Blake Rowan. Tall, smug, thinks he owns every hallway he walks down." Darius stared straight ahead, pulse hammering in his throat. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Maybe, but..." Reese glanced around before lowering his voice. "The woman laughing with him in the visitation hallway looked a whole lot like yours." Darius gripped the edge of the table until his knuckles turned white. Reese waited for a reaction, but Darius stood up and walked away before the man could get another word out. He tried to shake it off. Rumors traveled faster than air in prison. People talked because there was nothing else to do. But this rumor felt like it had teeth. That evening, Jonas, the oldest man on the tier and the only one Darius ever trusted, walked over with slow, heavy steps. Jonas didn't speak unless the words mattered. "You keep pacing like that," Jonas said softly. "You'll wear a groove into the concrete." Darius stopped. "You heard something too?" Jonas sighed. "I saw her yesterday, before she came inside. She wasn't alone." Darius's stomach dropped. "Jonas, don't do this to me." "I'm telling you because you need truth, not poison from men like Reese." Jonas folded his arms. "Your girl was standing with Rowan. Close. Too close for comfort. She looked scared." "Scared of him?" Darius asked, barely getting the words out. "Or scared of losing something she shouldn't have started," Jonas replied. Darius felt cold spread through his chest. He wanted to deny it, laugh it off, blame the fluorescent lights for tricks on the eyes. But Jonas wasn't a man who exaggerated anything. If he said something was wrong, something was wrong. Darius sat on his bunk long after lights out, trying to breathe past the pressure crushing his ribs. If Rowan was involved with Maya, even in a small way, it meant danger, humiliation, and something darker he didn't dare name. He turned his head toward the hallway, listening to the guard boots approaching. But what happens when the guard with that smirk finally crosses Darius's path, face to face? Darius woke before the lights buzzed on, already sitting on the edge of his bunk. He had spent half the night thinking about Rowan, his smirk, his swagger, the rumors that carried his name like a stain. The thought of Maya standing near him twisted something sharp in Darius's chest. When morning roll call ended, Darius stepped into the hallway with the rest of the tier. Boots echoed down the stairs. Blake Rowan appeared first, walking with the confidence of someone who never feared consequences. His uniform was pressed, his chin lifted just enough to look superior without trying. Darius watched him closely. Rowan barked orders at 2 inmates dragging laundry carts. He laughed at something one said, that lazy grin stretching across his face. Too familiar, too easy, the kind of grin someone used to charm and manipulate. Darius felt heat rise in his neck. Jonas's words replayed in his mind. She looked scared. Scared of him. or scared of what she had already done. Rowan glanced over the crowd, scanning faces casually, until his eyes landed on Darius. For a moment, neither of them moved. Rowan's grin widened, slow and deliberate, like he knew exactly which nerve to touch. He lifted his chin a little, as if saying, "I see you, and I'm not worried." Darius's hands curled into fists. Later, during work detail, Darius passed the administrative hallway, the one visitors sometimes crossed on their way in and out. That hallway had a window he always ignored. Today, he stopped. From the corner of his eye, he saw movement inside a small office. Rowan stood close to a woman, speaking low, leaning forward with the same effortless charm. The woman laughed nervously, stepping back only when Rowan moved too close. Something icy slid through Darius's spine. He could almost imagine Maya standing there, stuck, worried, trying to hide fear under a polite smile. Darius stepped forward, but another guard blocked his path. "Move it, Cole!" He swallowed the words burning in his throat and returned to the laundry room, but nothing looked the same anymore. Every corner felt tainted by the possibility that Rowan had reached deeper into his life than any guard should. Hours later, as inmates lined up for count, Rowan walked the tier again, tapping the bars with his baton. When he stopped outside Darius's cell, Darius stood up slowly. Rowan leaned his shoulder against the bars. "Heard you had a rough visit yesterday," he said lightly. Darius didn't blink. "Stay away from her." Rowan chuckled. "From who? I talk to a lot of people." Darius stepped closer. "You know exactly who." Rowan whispered, "You're in here. I'm out there. Maybe think about what you can actually control." Then he pushed off the bars and walked away without looking back. Darius felt something dark and steady rise inside him. Stronger than anger, heavier than fear. It wasn't jealousy. It was the realization that Rowan wasn't simply involved. He was confident. Too confident. And confidence like that only came from believing Maya wouldn't talk. Darius gripped the bars as Rowan disappeared around the corner. But what will Maya finally confess when she returns? And how much of Rowan's hold on her will she reveal? 3 days passed before Darius heard his name called for visitation again. Those days felt heavier than the weeks before it. He didn't eat much, didn't talk much, didn't sleep at all. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Rowan's grin pressed against the bars, mocking him in silence. When he walked into the visiting room, he stopped in the doorway. Maya was already seated at their table, fingers locked together so tightly the skin around her knuckles had turned white. She wasn't trembling like before. She looked drained, as if she had cried enough to run out of tears. Darius approached slowly. "You came back." Her voice faltered. "I had to." He sat down, but didn't reach for her hands. "Tell me what's going on." She inhaled shakily. "I wasn't avoiding you. I'm not choosing anyone else over you." "Maya," his tone hardened without meaning to, "stop dodging. I need truth." Her eyelids fluttered, and then they opened wider, revealing the panic she had tried to hide. "Darius, something happened. I didn't plan it. I didn't want it." A cold sweat broke across his back. "Was it Rowan?" She flinched instantly. That was enough. Darius leaned in. "Tell me." For a moment, no sound existed except the faint hum of the overhead lights. Maya pressed her hands to her forehead. "He cornered me after one of my visits. He said he could make things easier for you, or harder. He knew things he shouldn't. He knew where I worked. He knew when I walked home. He made it sound like I had no choice." Darius's jaw clenched until it hurt. He threatened you.
He implied it. Her voice cracked. He said if I stopped cooperating, he'd make sure you lost phone access or visitation privileges. At first he just talked. Then he pushed. Then he didn't take no for an answer.
Darius felt the room tilt, his pulse slamming against his ribs. Did he hurt you? Her silence told him everything before the words finally arrived.
I tried to tell him to stop. I tried to push him away. But he kept coming back, kept reminding me that he controlled everything. And I was scared, Darius. I was so scared.
He gripped the sides of the table. Why didn't you tell me sooner?
You're locked in here. You couldn't protect yourself. You couldn't protect me. And if I told anyone, he could retaliate. He made that clear.
Darius stared at her, torn between rage and heartbreak. I would have wanted to know.
I know, she whispered. But knowing wouldn't have stopped him.
She hesitated, then looked directly into his eyes.
There's more.
His chest tightened. What? Maya's throat bobbed painfully.
I'm pregnant.
The air left him. And you don't know whose it is, he said, though she hadn't spoken those words. Her lips trembled.
I wish I could say with certainty, but after everything, I can't.
Darius pushed back from the table, running both hands over his head. Maya, this is too much.
I'm telling you because I can't carry it alone anymore, she whispered. I need you to hear me. I need you to know I never wanted any of this. I never wanted him. But he doesn't stop. He doesn't back off. And I don't know what he'll do next.
Darius leaned forward, voice low and raw. What exactly has Rowan threatened now? And what will Darius do when Rowan finally decides he's untouchable and pushes the line even further? Darius walked back to his unit, with Maya's confession echoing through every step. Pregnant. Threatened. Trapped. Rowan's shadow had crawled into every corner of their lives, poisoning both of them in different ways. By the time Darius reached his cell, something inside him had shifted from helplessness to a cold, steady fire. Rowan appeared that evening during security rounds, strolling down the tier like he owned every breath inside it. Darius stood at the bars, waiting. Rowan paused when he reached him. You look tense, Cole, Rowan smirked. Rough visit? Darius didn't answer. Rowan tapped his baton against the bars, slow and mocking. Women get lonely. They get scared. They make inconvenient choices. You can't blame them. Darius stepped closer until they were a foot apart. Leave her alone. Rowan raised an eyebrow. Last I checked, I'm not the one behind bars. He leaned in. Maybe you should worry less about what she does and more about what I can take away from you. Darius felt heat rising in his chest. If you go near her again. You'll what? Rowan cut in softly. Hit me? Break rules? Lose privileges? He smiled. You can't touch me. And she won't risk telling anyone. She knows what I can do. Darius's fingers tightened around the bars, metal biting into his palms. Rowan walked off laughing, the sound crawling under Darius's skin. Later that night, Jonas approached quietly, leaning against the doorway of Darius's cell. He came by again, didn't he? Darius didn't look up. He's not scared of anything, not even consequences. He should be, Jonas said. And he will be, if you're willing to listen. Darius lifted his head slowly. What are you talking about? Jonas lowered his voice. Rowan has enemies you don't know about. Guards who hate him, inmates he's crossed, staff who don't trust him. This place collects secrets, and Rowan's got a pile taller than the walls around us." Darius frowned. Secrets don't help Maya. "They might," Jonas replied, "if they come out at the right time." Darius studied him carefully. Jonas wasn't reckless. He wasn't explosive. He spoke only when a plan had bones strong enough to stand. "What kind of help are you offering?" "A way to expose him. But it's risky." Jonas stepped closer. "Visitation days have blind spots, distractions. If the right chaos hits at the right moment, Rowan will make a mistake, and someone outside will finally hear it." Darius felt his pulse slow, sharpening into clarity. "You want me to start something?" "No," Jonas corrected. "I want you to be ready when something starts." Darius exhaled slowly. "You really think this can work?" "I think he's crossed too many lines. People are waiting for him to trip." Jonas met his eyes. "We're just giving him the push." Darius leaned back against the cold wall, mind racing. Every choice seemed impossible, but losing Maya completely was worse than anything that could happen to him. He clenched his jaw. "Tell me what I need to do." Jonas nodded once. "It starts on the next visitation day." Darius felt the weight of those words settle like steel in his chest. But what exactly will explode inside the visiting room when the plan finally begins? Visitation day arrived with a tension that clung to the air like smoke. Darius felt it the moment he stepped out of his unit, every inmate shifting strangely, every guard more alert than usual, every sound sharper. Jonas walked beside him, calm as ever, but his eyes carried the weight of something set in motion long before morning came. "You remember what I told you?" Jonas murmured without turning. Darius nodded. "Stay alert. Move only when it starts." "It will start," Jonas said. "Rowan always takes the bait." They entered the visiting room. Voices layered into a low hum, families greeting inmates, children clinging to fathers, women searching their partners' faces. Darius scanned the room. Maya sat at their usual table, alone, hands folded tightly. She looked smaller somehow, like fear had carved inches from her. When she saw him, relief washed over her face so fast it hurt to witness. He sat down. "You okay?" "No," she whispered. "He's been calling me. He said he'd show up today. I didn't know what else to do." "It's going to end," Darius said softly. "Today." Her breath hitched. "End how?" He didn't answer. He couldn't. Not yet. The door opened again. Blake Rowan stepped inside, chest out, smirk already forming. He shouldn't have been there. Guards didn't enter visitation unless assigned, and Rowan had no assignment listed today. His presence meant only one thing. He felt untouchable. Maya stiffened so visibly that Rowan noticed. He sauntered toward the tables, pretending to check IDs, pretending to work, pretending to be the man the system trusted. Jonas met Darius's gaze from across the room and gave a barely visible nod. Then it began. Two inmates at the far end started shoving each other, voices raised, chairs knocked over. A guard rushed toward them. Another inmate, accidentally, pushed a plate off a table, shattering it, creating a sudden sharp noise that turned every head. The room exploded into chaos, just enough to force guards to choose where to look first. Rowan reached out and grabbed Maya's arm. Darius shot up so fast his chair toppled. "Let her go." Rowan tightened his grip. "Sit down, Cole, before you lose more than a chair." Maya tried to pull away, panic rising in her voice.
Stop! Please stop!
Jonas moved in behind Rowan, unnoticed in the commotion, blocking his escape path. "Let her go," Jonas said, voice low, eyes fixed on the guard. Rowan sneered. "Old man, step back. This doesn't concern you." But other inmates began circling, not attacking, just standing, watching, waiting. Rowan glanced around, realizing too late the room wasn't breaking apart. It was closing in. Darius lunged forward. Rowan panicked. His hand went for his baton, but Jonas grabbed his wrist. Rowan reacted without thinking and swung wildly with his free hand, sending Maya stumbling back into a table. That was enough. Darius slammed into Rowan with full force. They crashed to the floor, bodies colliding with metal and tile. Rowan swung, cursing, clawing, desperate now. Darius grabbed his arm, pinning it. Maya screamed. People yelled. Guards shouted orders, drowned out by the rising surge of bodies. Then Rowan made the mistake that changed everything. He reached for the knife one of the guards had dropped during the chaos. Darius saw the blade glint. Instinct took over. He knocked Rowan's arm aside, hard. The knife slashed across Rowan's own throat before clattering to the floor. Everything stopped. Voices froze. Bodies turned to stone. Rowan collapsed, eyes wide, blood pouring across the tiles. Maya covered her mouth, trembling. Darius stared at his hands, chest heaving, heart pounding louder than the screams that finally broke through. Guards stormed in, dragging people away. Jonas was shoved to the ground. Maya was pulled back by 2 officers. Darius was pinned face first against the floor, wrists yanked behind him. But all he saw, all he cared about, was Maya's tear-filled eyes locked on his. The room around them was drenched in red, and the world he knew was over. But after the blood settles, what truths will investigators uncover that change everything again? The days after the visitation room chaos moved slowly, as if time itself limped through the prison halls. Darius stayed in a holding cell while investigators sorted through hours of footage, statements and files. He didn't ask for updates. He just sat on the edge of the cot, hands intertwined, waiting for a verdict in a world where waiting had become his life. When they finally brought him into the interview room, 2 detectives sat across from him, folders stacked high, eyes sharp with answers already found. One of them opened a file. "We've reviewed Rowan's locker, his office, and his electronic records. He kept files on multiple women. Notes, photos, schedules, extortion patterns, threats. Your fiancée's name appears more than once." Darius exhaled slowly, pain and relief twisting inside him. The detective continued. "Your actions in the visiting room, they weren't premeditated. The chaos was started by other inmates, not you. And Rowan's wound matches a defensive deflection, not an attack." Darius shifted in his seat. "What happens now?" "You'll still face disciplinary consequences. Time may be added. But the system failed both of you, and the state knows it." They closed the folder, signaling the end. Hours later, Maya appeared behind the thick visiting glass. Her face looked softer, calmer, no longer carrying Rowan's shadow. She placed her palm on the glass. Darius placed his against it. "They said you saved my life," she whispered. He shook his head. "I'm sorry I couldn't save yours sooner." Tears filled her eyes. "I'm keeping the baby." Darius swallowed hard. "Good. Raise that child free. Don't let this place touch them." "You'll meet them one day," she promised. He held her gaze, knowing he wouldn't. Knowing the walls around him weren't temporary anymore. But he smiled anyway. Small, tired, real. "Tell them their father tried," he said quietly.
Maya nodded, tears falling, hand still against the glass. And as she whispered goodbye, Darius finally understood the truth. Some lives aren't lost in one moment. They're traded, piece by piece, for someone else's chance to escape the darkness.